gas going again now. They got it started.
Was that what you was looking for? This, the way they bought one of those for that?
No, it was on a sheriff something. On the,
Oh,
5,000, I thought I seen on the sheriff's. I just wondered what it was for. It was a contingency.
okay.
What I thought.
I do have one more thing to bring up. When you're ready for it. Christy Schmidt, registered deeds, had asked me sometime back about getting a credit card for her department on our account that we have them all on too, for travel and meetings that they go to. So typically on that, if it's a new card and not just like a replacement with somebody leaving and somebody coming in, I bring that through here to get you guys to approve it before I apply on one. So if you don't have an issue with that, I just need a motion to add a credit card to our account for the registered deeds.
I don't have a problem with that.
Is there a limit?
Yeah, we set individual limits and then they're all under my account.
Okay.
And then I can go in and change limits, and I've got the whole balance on mine, but I have everybody else down to a lot lower balances.
Gotcha.
Typically 5,000 is what we put on them.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
You, Danny?
No, I don't have a problem with it.
I'll make a motion to get Christie a new credit card.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think that's all I've got for now, anyway.
AMR?
Good morning, Galen Anderson with AMR. Transport numbers wise for ambulance transports for this point in the month, we're at 37 transports. And for the last 7 days, we're at 15 transports. Pretty normal average busy wise. From a staffing perspective, I reported previously that there's one paramedic position that opened up with one of our tenured paramedics moving to Texas. And so that's posted and we're recruiting for it. Have some prospective candidates. We also have one current EMT who's obtaining her paramedic license soon. So I don't foresee that position being open long. Nothing really happening from the fleet standpoint or station standpoint. Crews are quite happy with their with the stations, with all the improvements you guys have made recently. So that's kind of where we're at.
You guys have anything?
All right.
Thank you, Galen.
Thank
Good
you.
week.
Missy?
Missy Lancaster, Linn County Health Department Administrator. Not really a whole lot to report this week. We will be going to the Governor's Conference next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then our Health Advisory Board meeting will be Monday, March 28th at 7. That'll be our next one. We'll organize the board and get that all taken care of. Other than that, I really don't have anything to report.
How did your COVID vaccination go? How many did you have for the youth, the kids?
And
No one, huh? Okay.
no kids. We still have our adults that come in, but we didn't have any kids on Wednesday.
Anybody calling about the part 6 of the new version of the COVID? There's another series of that out.
Boosters? You mean like a fourth?
No, and there's another COVID,
Oh, a new
Whatever.
a new variant.
a new variant.
I have not talked to anyone about it yet.
Okay,
So,
all right.
anything else?
See it in
I didn't see it.
maybe I looked at something wrong.
I think you was drinking.
I guess make a motion to accept the claims.
You can fold now. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'll make a motion. We accept the, pay the bills in the amount of 400, what is it?
466, 485.
That's my motion, to pay the bills in that amount.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I did have one other bit of correspondence here, if you want to take a look at that at the moment. This is from Nancy Justin, who's the site manager over at Pleasanton senior site. She said that this is the 50th anniversary of Meals on Wheels. And they have invited the commission to come over for lunch this Wednesday, if you're able to come.
Okay.
And she listed one page here, shows the menu for the day: roast beef, mashed potatoes, carrots, roll, and apple crisp. But she would like to know later today if you plan on coming or not, so she can make sure to have enough meals there. Said she had talked to the people who usually come in there and informed them that she was inviting the commissioners, but that this was just to be lunch and there was not a time to try to get things out of the commission.
And that's a Pleasanton Wednesday.
Yeah. So if you guys think about that while we're in here today, if you want to go, let me know so I can let her know how many people are coming.
Okay. Jessica?
Jessica Hightower, Economic Development. I've got a couple of things. First of all, I want to remind everybody that the Comprehensive Plan Open House is this Saturday at the fairgrounds, the 4-H building, from 2 to 4. Open to the public. We're going to have, it's going to be interactive. We'll have a presentation that's going to be streamed on our YouTube channel, and then we'll have tables set up where people can ask questions of the committee if they want to. I last week asked you about applying for a $1,500 grant for childcare, the committee that I'm forming. We have been awarded the grant. It's a reimbursement grant. I'll just have to send in receipts and hours as we get those in. So I need permission to sign this memorandum of agreement to get that grant.
It's for the health, or the child care.
Child care committee. Yep.
County?
Yep.
Name the grant and I'll make the motion.
The Communities in Action, a community child care capacity building project is what they're
Grant.
calling it.
Right?
Yeah.
Of $1,500?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we accept that grant and allow Jessica to sign it.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I also was able last week to get a second quote for the fuel tanks in Pleasanton. Do you want me to read those
No,
two?
bring them here.
Okay.
How'd you get them? Email?
Yeah. Yeah, they both came in. So this one did not, the original quote did not have a crane included. We have discovered that we need a crane to set the tanks. This one had the crane included. This total right here, they went back and added a crane cost.
To theirs that we already
Yeah,
had.
they did. So they match. Gary has seen them both, and this is the new total with the crane for this company.
And this one here, that's all it raised for the crane.
Do what?
That's,
Yes,
yeah,
that increases the amount of the crane.
$1,400 and some more for the crane. And there's an email towards the back that.
Included in that
specified
right there.
These are both plus tax, right? I guess.
I don't know that we would pay. Do we pay
I
tax
think
on
we
that,
would be
David?
exempt from the sales tax.
Exempt on tax, it just says plus tax here.
Yeah.
I think it says as applicable.
But in both cases, we'd be
Right.
exempt, so.
That second bid you got, I mean, do you know anything about it? You've dealt with these people a lot, haven't you?
We've dealt with that one a lot, yeah. The other company was recommended to me by WEMAC, who manufactures the tanks, as another vendor who sells their tanks.
And this is for the oil tanks.
The 2 tanks that we need at Pleasanton, yes.
You probably want to, at some point, you'll give the name of the company and their bid out loud so everybody can hear it, so.
So we need to state.
Are you wanting approval on these, one of these today? Or what's your,
Yeah, that's what she's looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You've,
This is for the fuel tanks and the oil tanks.
1 fuel tank, 1 oil tank, yes.
State this, Double Deck Company Incorporated.
Double check company,
Double
sorry.
check, okay. $68,888.
Cordell, and it's, same specs as that? I mean,
Yep.
it's the same. And this total is 60.
It's on the sticky note.
Oh, okay. $62,616.77.
so your apparent low bidder, and I've gone through them, and it appear to be the same specs. Your low bidder is the $62,000 one, so.
It's the same tank for both companies.
And Rick,
Our guys don't have to go in and do anything. This is just, they come in and do it.
We may have to do a little site prep, but the companies will do all the install.
We do the demo, we get it ready for them, and then they come in and
We have a company that's coming in and do that, right?
They're going to take the existing tanks. They're not going to do the site prep. So the tanks now are sitting in concrete saddles. These new tanks will have struts that run alongside, so they have to have a flat surface to sit on. So the concrete saddles will need reworked so that those tanks can sit on them. And then we'll need to add some gravel to the berm to build it up a little bit, but we won't have a whole lot of work to do to get the site ready.
now the concrete saddles we will do, or at least.
We will do them.
We will do.
How much is that?
What do you mean, how much? I don't know.
Are we,
it'll take,
What we're doing is taking the saddle out because the diameter of the tank is not gonna be the same. So as the saddle raises on the ends, we'll just saw off those ends of the saddle, make that flat surface.
so we don't have to buy any, a great amount of additional material?
No, this will be labor only to take out the curves of the saddle and flatten out the base.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm okay with it as long as it don't turn into a parking lot issue. Our road guys, I'm all about keeping them on the road, but that's something we gotta do. So I guess we gotta do it.
We're gonna do.
You guys good with it?
Gotta have them.
Gotta have it, I guess. We've tried for a long time. I would just say this, that in the future for our bidding, it's supposed to be sealed bid.
Okay.
So there's, email's great and it's fast and scanning and all that stuff is super, but that's the way that our government's supposed to work here.
Okay.
Everything's supposed to be sealed. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. If you make the motion, Danny,
Only if I make the motion?
only if you make the motion.
I'll make a motion that we allow, Hoydell to, install these new fuel tanks over at Pleasanton for amount of $62,616.77.
I'll second it.
The moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that it? You got more than that, don't you?
No, that's what I have. Gary has the original to sign.
Here we go.
Places to mark on the second page too, I think.
There's a couple different places. I highlighted them. You need a copy.
Probably wouldn't hurt.
I think Bill had it too.
I can do it or you can do it, whatever.
Thank you.
Do you guys have anything for me?
I don't know. Sean?
Sean West, Public Works Administrator. Parking lot, obviously our part of that is done now. We were able to get the storm drain on the east side set and covered. We had a contractor work on the sewer and had a new sewer installed for the annex itself. And we were able to finish up and satisfy the city on the car wash side after the removal of the tanks on the lines, and then pull our equipment out of there. The track hoe, it's being evaluated now. I'm sorry, it was taken or repaired, and it had a starter and solenoid issue. We expect it to be fully repaired now, and I'm awaiting the bill, which will probably be $3,000 to $4,000 on it. The starter itself was $2,000. Hellsbend Bridge, an update on it. It'll let in January 18, 2023, according to the state. Your February cost summary by task, which has printed those out for you. The 31 highway project is done. The gate is up, and we were able to get a lock in place on that. I'll deliver a key to the state, and we should be finished with that project after I drop that key off. We're working on the 1095 project to get a waiver. I expect it sometime this week. I'm also, I met with the second time, met with the property owners on the 1100 mailbox issue. I expect to be working with them over the next several weeks. Enterprise leasing will be here next week to speak to you all. Don George approached me and just asked that I make everyone aware that he is looking for pallets and plastic tubing for lake projects, both here in Linn County and in Bourbon County. Anybody having anything suitable for fish habitat, scrap plastic tubing or pallets, can contact him. If you don't have a number, please call here at the annex and we'll get you to Don for those projects. He's looking for a considerable amount of material. road graders at the dealership, and we expect an estimate. I spoke to the gentleman that'll be doing the work on it, and we expect an estimate this week. North Shop has a dump truck in the shop. It may be waiting for some time. The last part that was similar to this, they just got it out of the shop and it came in October. So we may be out a dump truck on the North Shop for a considerable amount of time waiting on parts. The North Shop tractor is broke down. We're looking at now, it has something to do with the radiator. It was discovered while we were moving the track hoe, and Harry's advised me he's also got his tractor down at this time and thinks it might be something related to a solenoid or something in transmission. So both of our tractors are down currently.
Who works on the tractors?
Our mechanics will be doing those and doing the assessments on those. If they need anything after that, then they'll let us know.
Okay.
And we've had several discussions, and I told you about asphalt, and I brought Todd in to give you some numbers, but one of those numbers you asked for, he was able to get from one of our contractors, just a rough estimate to convert gravel to pavement. This is a 3-inch and 3-inch subbase and overlay, and he was able to get a rough estimate just for our knowledge.
Bad when they just give you a piece of paper. They want to say that.
It's actually a lot less than the estimates I gave you before, but you also have to understand that, again, that's a hypothetical roadway and hypothetical conditions. So this is best case circumstances at the very best roadway that we could look. This would be the very minimum to convert that.
A mile?
Per mile. And Todd will talk to you a little bit about that now. I'll move out of the way and he'll answer some questions about the asphalt projects this year, and also any questions you have about our asphalt program.
Todd, you got the sheet up there?
No, I do not.
Hey, could you go over it real quick with us? So we'll all understand it.
All right.
It is. Blame for a while.
Back in the ditch, say, Greg.
They've been blading for 800 years.
Well, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. How are you, Todd?
Not too bad. How you guys?
Good.
So what would you like to go over? When I got this piece of paper done, I was talking to Bill DeLeach from Bettis out of the Iola shop. And he said that the roads will have to be assessed on a mile by mile basis, but this is just if they were going to give us a number. And he said, if a blade unit comes down, pulls the front slope on a ditch on both sides, just one pass, that's where the blading or the grading comes. He said there's a lot of factors. Some roads might take 4-inch base, 6-inch to get up to level. Right of ways to be concerned. If the road width is going to be right for box bridges, if we have to widen those out, if culverts are widened, because according to the National Highway Traffic Safety, the minimum a blacktop road can be, if we convert, is 24 foot.
Right.
And a lot of our roads are not 24. And then we have so much easement off the right of way for ditches and everything else. So he said there's a lot of factors to determine when doing this compared to just saying, oh, well, this is what it is.
Sure. That's what I want to know.
Yeah. So he said, this is your, like Sean was saying, this is your minimum. The road is out to width and everything else. He's saying if they came in and just did the minimum amount and turned it to blacktop, it would be that much per mile on a good day. He said it can go up from there, exponentially.
What's the number 3, Todd? Regrade base.
When they pull up the shoulders and they're going to regrade the slope to the road to try to get it to what the pitch is supposed to be.
Sure.
That's what that would be. As they're packing the road, the road will actually go out misshapen and they'll have to reblade the base back up and put it back to its crown.
But you said this price assumes it's good enough that only one pass would do it.
Well, that's all they're giving us.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah,
That's if they did, but if we did it, we know what our roads are.
right.
So what's the cost of the asphalt per mile?
The asphalt that they're gonna do is $88.26 a ton.
Okay, and you're saying we can't do it for that?
No, that's what we would end up buying it for, and we can't lay it. They're laying it for.
No, I'm just listening, yeah.
Yeah. So for us, anytime we're going to do an asphalt project and we're trying to compete with Kilo or Shillings or Bettis, the problem we have is since they can manufacture their own asphalt where we can't, we're at the mercy of buying it for whatever they're selling it for, just like Whitaker.
Right.
So we buy it essentially for what they are laying it down for in that sense. So we can't compete in that department. So they can make asphalt, I don't know, $50, $60 a ton, and we're buying it for almost $90 a ton.
Have you actually talked to other counties and
I talked to
Miami
Jeff McGuire.
they buy a lot and they
Yeah.
do a lot?
I talked to Jeff McGuire of Miami County,
Okay.
and I was talking to him about their asphalt program.
Right.
And he strongly advised against doing any chip seal asphalt. He said they've had nothing but problems with theirs, and we're having that same issue now. We're having a lot of roads that are blowing out. And he said for them, they do a 5 and 5. They do 5 inches of base, 5 inches of hot mix. And that's their program. And he couldn't give me an estimate because he said, that they'd have to go into the numbers and all that. But he said when they're doing hot mix now, they don't mess with chip seal at all. They just go straight hot mix asphalt. So
this bottom number over to the right, bid total, that you've got the amount is the actual amount that it costs to buy.
That 213,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that
For 1 mile.
for 1 mile, a 3-inch lift.
Our ditches will need more than one pass.
Yes, and the ditches will need more than one pass, and we've got roads that the trees will have to be removed, and we've got right-of-way issues that we might have with landowners that their fences are right up against some of the roads that we have that we won't have a ditch to put in if we try to do
And
that.
if we did chip and seal instead, what would it cost?
Chip and seal on a
Chip and
mile of
seal
road.
for 50, 60 years, and now it's not any good.
Well, I don't know why it's not any good anymore, but every county I've talked to, and I even talked to someone down in Bourbon County, and they advise against it. They don't like it either. But the cost of a chip,
Linn County will never, ever put another road in, a paved road at $213,000 a mile. We know that.
right?
That's
Yeah, that's
just material.
that's the issue, and that's the reason that our roads are struggling right now. Is we don't have enough money to properly maintain the blacktops we have now. We can't keep up with what we've got because for years, 15 plus, we haven't been overlaying the roads like we need to. We go through, we throw patches down where the bad spots start, and then we hope we can get enough money saved up to do an overlay. And that's why in 2019, when Adam Church was the asphalt foreman, he started to contract through Kilo to get 5 miles of road overlaid as best we could. And that's what I've tried to continue when I got here when we did the Parker. We're just trying to overlay what already exists, and maybe we can get at least somewhat caught up in that curve. And hopefully if we can get it to where now when we go to do a patch, we're sitting on a nice sloped grade that we can run off of instead of what we have, maybe we can catch up.
And what is the price of the overlay this year for us to overlay the roads that we have?
If we do 5 miles, I'm going to say it's probably going to be $89,000 a mile if I was going to go off that. I haven't gotten an actual bid from them yet, but just going off of what their tonnage is, I'm figuring out what they charged us to do up there last year. I'm going to say it's probably $89,000 a mile for an overlay, 1.5 inches.
Every how many years before you do an overlay?
We're trying to do you mean if we did an overlay, how many years after that? The 1077 was overlaid in 2019 from 1300 to 1700, and it's already showing stress fatigues in it. I'm going to have to go through, I've got it on the list to chip seal this year just to try to prevent any further cracking from happening.
Can you look up and see what?
But I'm starting to get stress fractures on the edges and some going across. So that's been
I think so.
3 years, 4 years now.
Now, what does it cost to chip seal?
Chip seal, I'm going to say what the cost of what I'm speculating oil is going to be somewhere around $17,000 to $18,000 a mile this year, maybe more. Whereas it was about 16 to 17. Because oils, they said it's going to take a big jump this year. They're telling us it's going to be probably 15 cents more per gallon for us to buy it. And I like the idea of adding new roads to the county. I just don't know how we can add new roads and maintain what we've got.
Well, we can at this price for this stuff.
Right.
Chip and seal has got to be better than gravel, period.
Well, and I agree with you. It's just, it'll eventually have to be an overlaid project at one point in time when we go to do patching. That's where it's going to come in.
I mean, my thought is if we get our ditches figured out, we're gonna save so much money on rock material.
But it's still rocks, what I'm saying, Danny, it's still
Well,
rock.
I understand that, but we gotta take
600
money
miles
from
of gravel. Never improve. Never make the effort. That's the disappointment. That's not on you. That's just
Yeah.
me venting. But and at $213,000 a mile, of course, that's never going to happen.
Right.
But if there's a different way of chip and seal,
Well, and that's what I've been looking into, is to find out if there's a company out there or there's a county out there that maybe has a different method or a different way.
that's what I was hoping for. You could research a little bit.
Right.
You're still not going to you're still not going to knock $100,000 off of it. You know
No.
that.
No.
You talked to Franklin or
No, I have not. I hadn't.
Anderson?
No, I haven't. And I put a call into Anderson, but I haven't gotten a call back from anybody on there. So I don't know who I relayed the message to that didn't get it, but
I'd rather see a chip and sealed road with a good base and chip and sealed that at the cost of what you kind of thought maybe it would be than just gravel, because we went from $100,000 to $1 million in gravel. And even with the roads better, with ditches and everything else, we continue to spend tons and tons of money on gravel. But the situation of the roads never get any better. In April and May and June, we'll all get calls that your roads are suck. And they will. They'll suck because of the rain and everything else. And tractor trailers and everything else that goes up these roads now. So I think chip and seal is the way to go for some of the roads.
the only issue that, and you just said it yourself right there, the only issue with the chip and seal road is the chip seal will move with the road as it shifts. And the problem that you're going to have with doing a base road and then chip seal, and this is what I think Miami County's running into, is the heavy equipment going up and down it, even dry and wet, the road's going to start to rut and it's going to push the chip and seal apart. And that's what they're running into. So it'll eventually shift the base underneath, which is why if you go down any of our gravel or any of our blacktop roads, you can follow the ruts in the road where the traffic is because the base underneath is gone. Yeah. And that's why we always go back with hot mix and we fill in our ruts with hot mix and then cap, because that at least now has something that it has to try to push against there. And I like I said, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, if we could get the roads where we could maintain them all properly, I'd love it. But we just don't have the budget and we don't have the ability with the cost of everything to do it like it needs to be done.
I'm like Danny. I think we need to work on the ditches, and I think that we did a lot here recently, but there's a lot of ditches in this county that need cleaned out to get the water in the ditch.
A lot of the problem that when I was a blade man that I always seen was you could get the water to the ditch all day long, but if it couldn't get out of the ditch and off into the creeks that it needs to, it did you no good, because the water would stand next to a road and it would make a road go soft. So if you can't get a waterway cleared out, or you can't get the water away from the edge of the road on further, I mean, you'll have water sitting in your
I
ditches.
don't think we'll have a problem if we reach out to the landowners to get even to take it on off the road. There's landowners that don't mind.
That would be a great thing right there.
To fix the problem, I believe.
Yeah, that would be a great thing right there. Because if you can get the water off the roads and away from them, not standing, your gravel roads will hold up. And I mean, they'll last quite a while. And the cost effective between a ton of rock compared to a ton of asphalt's real big difference. I mean,
It's just like the last snowstorm, we got out and hit the roads really well, I thought, and with the roads I drove, we got the snow off of them. And when that snow melted, the roads was dry for
Yeah.
about 24 hours. Our gravel roads is in better shape from that snowstorm, I thought, because they just went out and bladed the snow off. They didn't take the gravel.
right.
They just knocked the road was as bare as you could be without taking gravel off of it. And when it melted away, the roads was dry within 24 hours.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, you can find a good road that's got good crown by that right there. If it's got good crown, the road will dry really quick once the water's off of it.
It's got a good crown and the side's 4 inches higher though. It just creates a river on the side and takes rock with it.
There's the next thing. You got to get rid of your lips and you've got to pull your front slopes. And I mean, there's a lot of factors to getting a road right. And some of our roads, our gravel roads, one of the big issues is they're low. They've actually went down in height. They should be brought back up. I mean, there's one of the things I was trying to do when I was a blade man. I try to build my roads up. But you can't bring a bunch of mud up into the road and then gravel it. It doesn't work. I mean, you're spending a whole lot of money trying to get a road put back. So that's. But if you guys have any more questions, I'll be glad to answer. And I will research into Franklin and Anderson and talk to them and see what their policies are and see what they.
I'd like you to see you can find a program on chip and seal too.
That's what I was going to do. I was going
Yeah.
to call them and see what their programs are.
There may be some type of product that we can put down too to help.
Okay.
But, and how much does it cost to re-gravel a mile of road?
On that one, I'm not sure.
That's hard to tell, I know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure.
Is a load of gravel,
A load of gravel, probably
How much is
$150.
how much?
Probably $150
Okay.
for, I'd say 15 tons. I think base rock's close to $10 a ton now. So, but if there's any other questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Oh.
I don't have any.
No, mine's kind of.
So have you got your project set for summer? Spring,
Yes.
Whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to try to overlay Ungenhauer going to Prescott because of the new truck traffic coming in there from west. And the farms and stuff. We've got a bunch of seams that are starting.
Sure.
So that's why I was getting a hold of Sean about trying to get a new cold planer. Not new, but new to us cold planer. So I can mill down all the joints. And we've got a spot on 566 at Reed Road that's a real hard hump. I want to get that milled out. And I've got 35 miles of chip seal road picked out to do. And then we've got, of course, our crack sealing to do and things of that nature. And then I've got
We're hiring out our crack sealers, or are we doing it
we
ourselves now?
do it ourselves.
We're doing it now ourselves?
Yeah.
We did it last year, that's
We
right.
did it last year, and it's working out fine now. Now that we got all their
Is
little
there a better product to put down besides, those cracks on those, on the highway, the frontage roads, they'll split and they'll get about 2 inches wide, but they'll go about that deep.
Yeah. And see, I've gotten a hold of Craftco about that, and they don't have anything. They told me stuff styrofoam in it. That was their suggestion. I didn't understand what styrofoam would do for working in that, so we pretty much just fill them up with the materials. So.
Okay.
But we've got crack seal we're going to be doing, and then any side projects that come up, I've got, I think, budgeted somewhere around 60 loads of hot mix this year to do all the major
How
products.
many people do you use for that project?
For patching.
Yeah,
Last year we did it with 5 people.
okay, and then are we hiring this other out,
The chip seal?
Yeah.
No, we do chip seal in house.
so how many people is it gonna take you for that?
Chip seal is 13
people.
people. Because you have to have the 6 dump trucks. I have to have 3 guys on the chip.
No, I got you.
Oh.
I'm just laughing because Danny's gonna look at me.
I just don't.
We've been doing this for years, We just beat ourselves up and we get way behind on the roads. And that's exactly what we're going to do again this year, it looks like.
Well-
How's that work with you? I mean, between you and the foremans, how's that work with your guys' schedule? I mean, because like on a day like today, you wouldn't probably be out going out and doing it. I mean, but you'd probably figured last week too, didn't you?
Right.
So how does that work? I mean, is that a pain in the ass?
Not really, because I'll notify either foreman, because I watch the weather pretty intently when it comes to chip seal, because the return charge on a load is pretty substantial. So I watch the weather pretty intently, and if it says it's gonna be good, warm weather, and it's gotta be above 55 before you wanna chip seal a road, I'll coordinate with Harry the day before or 2 days before and say, hey, I need these 6 trucks to go to this quarry and pick me up the rock. And I usually call my oil vendors, which they've been really great about having trucks lined up for me. So
How would it work? I mean, just hypothetically, if like we just kept you as like an asphalt guy, like a foreman or superintendent, and you dealt with like subs and you had them do it, and you just went around and maintained, or made sure that
if we subcontracted, our budget would go, we wouldn't get nearly as much done because with the way everything's going, we don't charge as much as, and I don't know its actual numbers, but I'm going to say Charlie Ball probably charges more per hour than what the county charges or pays out.
yeah, but then we're taking 6 dump trucks away from the entire county. I mean,
Yeah. And I understand that hassle. I do. And it will be taking away the rock hauling. But the thing about chip seal is if knock on wood, everything goes great, we could probably have our chip sealing done in about a month. Because if we can do 3 miles a day, and we've got 35 miles, we should be able to have it knocked out in a solid month. So that's roughly a month of the dump trucks not being there. Whereas before, asphalt used to run from March until October. We can't do that anymore. We don't have that money. That's why we're now stepping into the crack sealing and we're stepping into other areas to try to get that taken care of. And on crack seal, I run a 5-man crew with that too, because I have 2 that run the cleaner. They blow out the cracks, and then I've got 3 men that walk with crack sealer. And I'm one.
And the biggest problem with that seems to be like the frontage roads. Is that right?
Yeah.
The frontage roads with the crack seal is the
Yeah.
biggest
It's actually
problem.
roads that we took from the state, gave.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, we've got a lot of roads that have some really bad cracks on them.
It's
and
just
some really
weird how
wide
they do
ones
it.
too.
Yeah, they just like 20-foot chunks, and then all of a sudden there'll be a crack this wide.
Yeah.
And they start growing in the summer.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We
what do you put down in it? Just flowable?
it's a rubberized cement. It's a 3405 product.
Is it
Missouri.
expandable?
Yeah, it never actually hardens. It stays soft, but it's not tacky. So when it goes cold, it'll actually stretch, and the heat and the cold will actually just let it flex, and it just stays inside the road there. And all that is it's basically what we put down for chip seal, in a way, because all we're doing is we're preventing the water from getting in there and expanding the cracks more. So we're just doing a waterproofing.
Is there a minimum depth that you said that they told you could stick styrofoam in it?
Yeah.
Is there a minimum depth that it has to be?
They advise at least 2 inches. As deep as you can get it is what the manufacturer said, WR Meadows. Because the more you can get down in there to grab onto the jagged edges of the asphalt, the better it will be.
Okay.
Anything else?
I
Now,
don't have anything, you guys?
And I will look into that and find out.
I'm just a fan. I think we need to look into the county, and if we can make it better, make the county better. And I think if chip and seal is $18,000 to $20,000 a mile, then each district ought to look at doing several different miles a year to improve the county. And we need to come up with criteria for that. But if you clean the ditches, level the roads, get crown the way you want it, and then put the chip and seal down. I mean, some roads have got, right now, I've got 10 or 12 houses in a mile. Why shouldn't they have a chip and seal down instead of gravel just blowing all over?
Right.
I mean, that's the way to improve everything in the county. That's my thing. All right, I'm done.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks,
No
Todd.
problem. You
Appreciate
guys
it.
have a great day.
Yep.
Hey, I'll probably get with you, Todd, just because I just want to educate myself on the whole asphalt thing. I've been asking a lot of questions, and I don't want you thinking like I'm 100% against you. I just want you to educate me on a bunch of
That's
stuff.
fine. I look forward to talking.
Todd, stick around.
All right.
Just before Todd gets out of here, just to let you know about some of the other things that he does. He's working on our overlay project last year. He's working with the contractors on it because there were some issues. And he's working on holding them accountable so that our roadway, we get what we pay for. And when he's not doing that, I've used him and Jake for other projects, safety issues. They got the rumble strips put in on Lemon Corner.
That worked.
So Todd in the background, I know we only see him during the warmer weather of the year, but in the background, he's doing something daily to help me out and to get me the information and the things I need to keep that going. So I appreciate the work.
Is all of our asphalt equipment up? Is it, or any of it down, broke?
No, it's broke.
Everything's good?
Got everything fixed. We're gonna, take the distributor out sometime this week, make sure it's calibrated still properly, then we're gonna do the same thing with our chipper.
Is it a 14-foot strip you lay when you shooting the oil down?
I can go anywhere from 10 foot or 8 foot to 20 foot.
Okay.
So depending on what we wanna do. And our
So you still have to make 2 strips?
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't.
yeah.
On
Can't
reg-
quite do the whole road.
All right, good.
But our paver can do anywhere from 10 to 20. So it's, and our chipper's the same, we can do 20 on it. So, and that's helped out a lot compared to the old Roscoe, which I don't believe you guys ever got the joy of seeing, but it was 12 foot regardless.
Yeah.
That was kind of a irritating machine to deal with. So we've got some really good equipment for our county.
Yep.
The only thing we don't have, and as I was telling you the last time we met, I can't do long stretches of overlay with hot mix because we don't have the automatics. And I talked to a company that deals with Cedar Rapid, which is what we have. And the lady told me there's a chance she could find the automatics for us, but she can't give us a price quote because they're outdated. Our paver's 97. I mean, it's still new, but it's a 97. It doesn't have hardly any hours on it. But she told us that the electronics for those aren't typically something that people keep. So when they get rid of the paver, they usually jump the automatics.
Gotcha.
So that's why we do the patches like we do. We do, a couple 100-foot patch. So if I can get the automatics, it needs to be some overlay on ourselves, but it'll be more than what that is.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It is. I agree with you 100%. So.
Maybe we'll go to
Appreciate it,
concrete.
Don.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Maintenance, went back through and got us some more, I guess, got more life and, cleaned up our cabins. They did floors all around the county. And while they were doing them at the senior centers and other places, they went through our cabins. And I haven't got to walk through it, but from talking to Sherry, the maintenance and things and the flooring itself looks pretty amazing compared to what they were dealing with. So I did want to mention that Rick and Danny, especially Danny, had gone around and been working on all those. And from talking to Sherry, it improved that situation greatly. The next thing I got for you is Johnny. He and Carl have finished up all of their certifications, their training, and he has a 2022 noxious weed plan for you that needs to be signed, and he's going to talk about the programs, the certifications and things that they've got done. He and Carl have gone through and got everything that we've asked them to do and done a really good job of getting that program. We now are in a position where we have 2 fully certified noxious weed directors, not just certified to do the spraying, but both have just recently finished the basic qualifications for director training. So I'll let him explain that to you and then
Did you see these costs on this,
on,
on his plan?
yes,
And where does this money come from? Is it all on the noxious weed?
I will have to, I will.
I'll show you.
I don't know the answer to that right offhand.
Okay.
Is this gonna be a fairly long presentation, Tony, or?
10:15.
I had him on it as well. And
Okay.
our appraiser should be here in a few minutes, and we've got some bids. We should open sometime soon.
Okay. Well, to finish me up,
We're gonna make you.
looks like everything, Johnny was my last one. I will need 10 minutes legal, 10 minutes non-elected personnel with Morgan as well. And then if you had any questions for me, and then we'll bring Johnny up here in a little bit.
10 minutes legal and 10 minutes non-elected.
Yes.
Okay, well, guess can we go ahead? Kitty, do you have something?
He's here for the bid.
Just
He's
some
here
bids.
for the-
Okay, bids, okay. Yeah, we're gonna open them when?
Right now.
That's good. Yeah, we just postponed it to this week from last week.
Okay.
You got anything to add contract wise?
Me?
If it's gonna mess anything up?
Maybe there'll be cash in here. Nobody's got a sense of humor. All right. Mine's from Kenny. For 131.65 acres, per $131.65 per acre, $18,500 annual. What do you got?
Price per acre is higher, it's lower annual.
Okay, this one's for containing 142.52 acres usable ground, Heck Farms. Says $13,333 annually.
Get your calculator out.
Can I take a look at them when you get finished reading? Okay, so they both bid on 142.52 acres. They both bid on the same acreage.
Heck just has a total on there, not a per acre charge, right?
Yeah, the total is all we really are interested in. Kenny's bid is 18.5 per year, and Dan's bid is 13,333 per year. So this is for a 3-year lease. So we know now what the best bid is on a 3-year lease. It's Kenny's bid. So the next question is, are you open to continuing the old contract a year with Kenny rather than entering into the new lease? That's what, remember he was here last week asking just to extend the previous 3-year contract one more year. What was the price on, you have that, David? I didn't think to bring that.
I can get it.
Yeah.
was 15.2, I believe. I went ahead and raised the bid up a little
Yeah.
bit.
So presuming that number's accurate, the extended 1 year would be higher than Dan's per year for 3 years, just so you kind of think about comparison those.
The bid shows an 18.5, and that is on a 3-year contract bid.
Right.
If you elect to go with that, contract provisions allow for development at any time with only recovery of input costs to me. There's no projected reduction cost to the county. So rather than do the 1-year extension, if you just want to do the 3-year extension, I will work with the county and it's still open to any development.
Okay, so are you saying that you're no longer specifically or only requesting a 1-year extension? You would be open to the 3-year contract?
I will stand by the 3-year contract, and if the county chooses to develop, then we'll work together on whatever the county needs.
So what, if we do choose to develop, then we can get out of the contract?
Right now, what the lease says is that if we choose to develop, we give him proper notice and then we reimburse him for anything he's put into it, basically.
Incur expense and the cost.
Right. And that we don't pay him for what he might have earned, but we pay him for what he's actually put into it. And you're saying you're still okay with that?
And how much time is that? Do we give him 60 days or whatever?
I can't remember.
I think it says 60 days.
I can't, yeah, it's a reasonable amount. But, so it sounds like your best bet probably is to, if Kenny's open to it, and is just to go ahead with a new 3-year lease. But
I'll make a motion, we accept the bid for Kenny for what is it?
18.5.
$18,500 for a lease of some farm ground.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded to accept the bid from Kenny.
I probably
All
need,
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll need to draft the lease and get it to you, Kenny. So we
You need a copy of this one too?
You know,
Read the fine print.
if you give that to David so he can have it.
Give it to Rick.
Yeah, give it to Gary. He's got to pay for his.
I'll get you a lease, Kenny.
He's got to pay his taxes.
Okay, I'll have David's office call you then and you can come in. Okay, yeah, we'll mail it to you. Sounds good. Drop it off to David.
That'll be
Do
easier.
you have something?
Sounds good.
You got Kathy.
Okay, Kathy comes at 10. Okay, I guess it's your turn, Kathy.
We had this many people in a while. We must have said free food or cookies or something today.
I told him you're buying lunch.
What's that?
I told him you're.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, take a 5-minute recess while they set this all up.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded to take a 5-minute recess. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any plans? No. Not fine, so.
I don't know how much battery power I have there, but
I like to. I just don't like gravel. That's one. That are kind of let's see. Our was there, I'm sure
Thank you.
how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, you brought yours, but brought another one.
You can give me one. I've got one printed off, Kathy. You give me another one because I might have forgot something. Okay, thank you.
I clicked on it a little quick here. Trying to get it to connect.
Come on.
See if we can kind of get it to bounce. There we go. I'm gonna have you sign in again, please. I don't know why it's having so much trouble. See, it acts like it's trying.
I brought,
Yeah.
I prepared for the worst, so.
Well, and we can go grab the laptop out of the other
I
office
even what that was,
and plug it into the cable. You have it on that flash drive, right?
And that's what I seen. I said it was 5. I found it. This is drilling communication lines to move. Coming across here.
Some of the stuff like that.
Okay, let's do a.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'll go back on mine.
I'm gonna go.
That's what it was. I see it now.
There's an adapter you need to go from here to the HDMI, so they won't plug directly.
That's fine. Just.
You all ready?
Mm.
Getting close. Ready? Let me know.
Got issues. Yeah, it's like wait a moment. Mine doesn't say it. I think that might be space legal, since it's not for local. Okay, we're all basically. What you got? What you got?
You got one too.
What is it?
Just the evaluations. So you can explain it.
Can you cipher it for us?
Yep.
Can we blame somebody?
We'll be looking at you now, Mom.
Get your pointer up here.
That's right. Yeah,
Act like I know what.
you might not want to be pointing to this.
You're hanging with rough company there.
Yeah.
One on your list, worst.
I rest my case.
Get my feelings hurt here. Are you done?
Just in case.
Chris, can't you get it to work?
One more time.
That's $40 now. That's right.
Kathy and I had multiple conversations this week over our evaluations, just trying to educate myself. I was the one that talked her into coming and kind of try to help everybody else explain. She can explain to this, and hopefully we'll understand. So,
No problem. I'll go. My name is Kathy Bridges. I'm the county appraiser. Just started with Linn County this last July, and it happened to be in a time when the market is up. I think I've been doing this for 29 years, and I think this is the most intense market that I've seen in my 29 years. And so I don't know if you guys read a press release back in September, but Roger, I believe his name is Simmons from the Linn County Journal, had got contacted myself and also some area realtors. I believe that Larry Holtz on this. Also, he talked with David on mill levies and all that, how that works. So if you guys want a copy of that, just to refresh it, just it does state here that strong local real estate market expected to affect valuations, and that was even prior to these valuations coming out. So just want to iterate that we're just the start of this. We're not actually, we don't set the taxes. A lot of people actually feel like we're responsible for it all. We get phone calls, very upset property owners that put the blame a lot on us, and it's not. So I just kind of want to overview today. I've done presentations like this in the past for many, many years, so just kind of want to, I put together some stuff for Linn County here, specific for our county. So I've got, we can't see it up here, but I know you guys have the paper, so if anybody would like a copy of this afterwards, I can sure send it to you. On the first page, of course, is just a title page, but if you turn over to the next page, you'll see that just a general overview is our duties are to discover, list, and value both real and personal property for ad valorem tax purposes. We have annual processes that we have to follow, and there are different phases of valuation. So property must be reviewed and valued annually with an appraisal effective date as of January 1. Now, we don't typically mail until March, but we, like after these valuations are done and we get through our appeal process and we go to certify our values in June 1st to the clerk, what happens is that we will actually start working on 2023. So it's just, we're always an appraisal cycle ahead than when taxes are, okay? do. Our oversight agency, I know I'm employed by Linn County, but I do have an oversight agency, and that oversight agency is the Kansas Department of Revenue. There's a personal property valuation division. And we all have to use a state mandated system. So I can't just come up with my own appraisal system. It's a state mandated that's used by all 105 counties in the state of Kansas. So what I was talking about earlier is, you know, the work of the appraiser's office does, what we do is just the starting point for the development of the year's taxes. So those taxes become due in December of 2022. So we're required to value property, like I said, as of January 1. And with the exception of agricultural land, all properties should be valued, excuse me, at market value. So in order to make sure that we're doing that correctly, property valuation does do both a procedural and a statistical audit on us. And I know that the state was in here earlier this year because the values were actually out of compliance.
And compliance has to be within
10% of market.
either way, right? So if a house is 50,000, you got to be within,
90% of what the property's appraised.
right?
You said we weren't in compliance. Were we low or what?
We were low and we were inequitable on some properties, so yes.
And then if you're not in compliance, then we receive a letter and an audit, is that right?
Right.
Okay.
So those values are then, once we send out our valuations, those values are then certified to the county clerk. So David's real familiar with this process, who in turn calculates an assessed valuation for all taxing districts. This is where taxes become, come to fruition here. It's called a mill levy, and these mill levies are based on the budgets needed for the various taxing entities. And so once complete, then he certifies those to the treasurer's office, who then, the treasurer's office actually mails the tax bills, processes payments of the property taxes, and distributes the collected funds to the appropriate local units of government, school districts, and the state government. So while our work can be stressful and sometimes controversial, the values that the appraiser's office provides are very important in maintaining fairness and equity in the property tax system. So just to give you an overview of how many parcels we actually value is, and there's different assessment rates by, okay, there we go. So I will get to where I need to be.
Good job, Chris. I'll take you off Facebook.
So
All the things I said.
we have several classifications of property, and as you'll learn here in a little bit, those types of property are
Don't fall asleep.
valued at different assessment rates. So you'll see that other classification, not-for-profit, there's farmstead with agricultural that has different assessment rates attached to that. Commercials at a higher rate than residential at 25%, where residential is at 11.5%, and then vacant land, and then exempt properties such as the courthouse and churches and other entities are exempt, and those properties are then not taxable. So
And that's all determined by the state, is that?
yeah, actually the legislature, and then the assessment rates are actually through Constitution. So the real estate appraisal notice, like I said, the effective date was January 1. We mailed out March 15th. Typically, these are mailed out March 1. We did need to get an extension, and that extension was for various reasons. But we did go ahead and mail out on March 15th. Now, property owners have an appeal deadline of April 14th. That's a 30-day deadline to file from once the informal sent out. Then we're on a very tight deadline. So what we do is the
valuations get mailed out March 15th. We have to have all hearings held by May 15th. And then we have to certify, we have to hold hearings by May 15th. We have to have all results out by May 20th. And then we have to certify by June 1st to the clerk. So it's over the next couple of months is kind of fun for us. And we also, not many people realize it, but we are responsible for personal property as well. And so I just wanted to kind of go over some deadlines real quick on that. The valuation notices for those will be mailed out April 29th. And the deadline to appeal will also be May 15th. So that's a shorter turnaround on those. But we have different types of property, which you can see is commercial personal property, oil and gas, individual personal property, manufactured homes, and then renditions were due March 15th, and we do have a bit of a high delinquency rate on those. So here in a minute, you'll see we're going to try to take some proactive measures on that. And but we do have in the appraiser's office, right now, we just did a count this past week, and we have 8,625 personal property items that we have to value each year. So that's golf carts, ATVs, trailers. So it's quite a large amount. The timeline on personal property is a little bit different. It is as of January 1, but what I was talking about, the delinquency rate, is if we have what's called, and it's not coming from us, it's coming from the state legislature, that there's a 50% non-filing penalty. And a lot of people, it's better to get that taken care of before tax bills show up, because we can only, after it becomes delinquent and non-filing, we can only take care of about 25% of that in our office. So what we're going to do is when we mail out our valuation notices, we've come up with a letter we're going to send as a reminder to all the delinquent accounts to try to help property owners out there. But we do have to certify all of our personal property values also to the clerk June 1st. So a lot of people right now, not a lot. I mean, we do have some phone calls, but I think people understand that the market is up. And we'll go over a little bit of why properties go up. But the appeal deadline is 30 days. If they don't appeal at informal time, they can pay under protest either their first half or their second half. So you have 3 opportunities to appeal, but you can only do it once a year.
Can you give some examples of why people would appeal or have appealed?
Yeah, can I go up a
Sure.
few, and I'll show you, I'll show you some reasons. This informal appeal history, a lot of times you can see that maybe they were okay with it at informal, like the first set of numbers here in 2019, but then they got their tax statement and maybe mill levies went up. And that's what caused taxes to go up. So you can see that in 2019, we actually had more payment under protest than we did informals. Then in 2020, it was kind of the opposite, where we had more informals. And 2020 is when we really started to see the market turn. So I do know that there was quite a few valuations that started going up at that time. So we have anywhere between 40 to 75 hearings on informal. And so around 100 a year is what we've been running, a little bit more. And that's pretty typical. These are, why people typically appeal, because what we get is, why would a value change from last year? The big thing right now is because of the market, but here in a little while you'll learn that we go out on re-inspections as well. We do have a building permit system here, but a lot of people don't get permits for things. So maybe we have to go out there once every 6 years, and we have to visit around 3,500 parcels a year. So we might pick up a deck that we didn't know about, or a shed, or a building. So also, data changes. We acquire information from MLS, other sources. Field inspections, we also look at our index, and if you happen to read, I know it's not real exciting to read the legal notices, but we do have to send out our annual market analysis. And in that, our index indications were showing on the median that we were about 10 to 15% too low. 10 from just hitting 95%. So we were basically 15 to 20% too low on values. And what the index checks is our prior year values compared to sell prices. Also building permits, a lot of, the old saying, you will build it, we will come. If you build it, we will come. We do. Eventually, we will find that new construction. So a lot of times someone says, well, I didn't put that, new addition on until for 2 years ago. Well, if we didn't get a building permit for it, maybe we hadn't been out there for, 4 to 6 years and we're just catching up with it. So also sales of subjects. We've been seeing a lot of sales. We've been seeing a lot of flips. So we'll see a property be purchased for one amount, and by the end of the year, you can see that maybe what happens a lot is it'll sell for, let's just put out a number, $40,000 to the first buyer. They come in and they change the looks and call it a flip, and by December they're selling it again for $125,000. Typically, one thing to keep in mind that a mortgage company, when they go to do a loan and your escrow account, they'll do it off the previous year's values. So we get that a lot where a mortgage, you made our value go up. Well, it's one of those things that the mortgage company probably used the $40,000 sell price to come up with their escrow account versus the $125,000 the next year. So these are different reasons. We get a lot, Rick, you were asking, we get a lot of people that say, I didn't do anything. I might have painted my garage door. It doesn't matter that you haven't made any changes. It's the market. So, unfortunately. So that is an important thing to remember, is that appraisers do not create value. People actually determine value by their transactions in the marketplace. So we basically have the legal responsibility to analyze those transactions and appraise properties based on what's happening in the marketplace. So even in this news release, I think Mr. Holt had made a statement in there that, when you were able to purchase a home for $100,000 the previous year, they're going for $150,000 later. You know what I mean? So we're not doing that. It's what they're asking in the market. It's a very big seller's market right now. So the housing market, main factors, the supply and demand, low inventory. When we were talking about affordable housing, sometimes that shift has, because of the low interest rates, people can afford to buy more, because of the lower interest rate. We've seen some bidding wars driving up sale prices. And even though the feds did go and up the mortgage, the 0.25, I think this last week or so, and they're planning on making 7 more adjustments throughout the year, or a total of 7. So I'm hoping, for everybody's sake, that maybe this housing market kind of simmers down just a bit. This is actually information taken off of Heartland MLS. We always like to look December to December, and what we were seeing was that their median sales price percentage change mimicked very much like ours. Now, we do have more information as far as we get the for sale by owners, we get all that, but it was interesting to see. So what you could buy, they're saying the median was at 124.6 last year, and then, or in 2020, and in 2021, it was up about 16.3%. You can see that the supply from last year is down, the inventory is down. So that's an interesting look at from one year to the next. One thing that we've really seen over the last couple years, I don't know if you guys realize it, but we get every document that is typically recorded in the Register of Deeds office that goes through our hands. And so you can see the from 2017 to 21, I just took a 5-year snapshot that the blue is our maintenance forms. That's what we call a maintenance form. So any transfer document that was recorded. So you can see that it ran in the 800s range. And in 2020, despite that pandemic, it went up to over 1,200. Now, I thought this was an error because it was like, how could we have 1201, 1201? But we do. We had 1201 sales recorded in both 2020 and both 2021, where before they were 800, in the 800s. So you can see where the shift has really, on sales, has actually moved up. And with that, we use those sales, and any sales that come through our office, we have staff that have to verify to see if we're able to use that in our market analysis. So we go through what's called a validation process. So you can see that 40% of those here are related to sales. So here's just kind of a look. These are just residential improved sales only over the last 5 years as well. And you can see that it's not just in one community, it's in all communities, and especially we're seeing a lot of movement in the lake properties as well. So this is just residential sales. If we tried to add the land sales in here, it would be just crazy, the number of dots. So this is using our information. You can see where MLS had our median sale price at 144. Ours is actually coming in, our median is coming in at 121. So we're getting more, but it was only at 104 last year. So our median sale price went up, and then our average is up to about 135. And that's just 1 year. One thing that we get asked a lot is, do we go outside of the county to value? We do not. So here's just a very broad overview of a residential model. What we do is do a regression analysis, and it's market modeling for our sales comparison approach. So you can see this red subject down here. And what we try to do is we try to go into its subdivision, but basically how we do our groupings and market modeling is we use just valid sales only, and we don't use foreclosure, short sales. Now, back in the day, like I remember back in 2008 when the recession first hit, remember when the recession just bottomed out? That became the market, was foreclosure. So back then we did, but foreclosures are very rare right now. So, but we go into, we try to find properties like it within a subdivision, its neighborhood group, might be a town, and then models, especially out in the rural, you don't have a lot of neighbors, so we try to keep it to certain areas of the county, pulling from certain portions. We have to use at least 3 comparables. So sometimes if there's a unique property, we rely more heavily on the cost approach versus the sales comparison approach. So we talked about parcel maintenance and inspections, and that's one thing I just put in here because I don't think people realize that we are mandated to go out and physically inspect 17% of the parcels each year. So you'll see our staff out there, and we do go in county marked vehicles, and what they're doing is just verifying our data on our records. Other inspections we do is the recent sales. We have to go look at those. We have to look at new construction, if it's been torn down, if it's been, something's been built. So Also, we do utilize, and we have a fairly small staff, so what we do also rely on is we use ortho imagery, we use the oblique imagery, and we also use front elevation photography. One thing that was a bit of a challenge this year too is we had a lot more building permits to go out on. And we were a bit behind in 2020 because we couldn't go out on properties during COVID. So we had to play catch up on a lot of those. So you'll see that this past year we did pick up about 14 million in new construction. So throughout the county. Agricultural land, like I said, that is not at market value. And those types of properties were given those values by the state. And for all land types, you'll see the little map, by Wyandotte, Johnson, Linn, Anderson, all those greens, we were about consistent with those at 5%.
That's based off of soil type.
Yes, that's based off of soil types. I didn't go through that whole slide, but yes, it is. Now I'm not sure how to go back. My left arrow. Oh. Here, I got it. Without a mouse, I'm like totally lost. But yes, it's on based on productivity. It's not market value, and it is by soil types. And those soil types are through the NRCS. There's a soil. We have to go by their soil maps, though. One thing I wanted to show you here because it's very. A lot of people maybe don't understand that commercial and different, and even agricultural, in the end, they end up paying more taxes actually than a residential property because of the assessed valuation. So you can see what we do in our office is come up with the value, the appraised valuation. So you can see that residential overall, our valuation went up 20%, and that's including exempt properties, and it's including new construction. Okay.
Now, the exempt properties are churches and federal and state-owned land
Right, and county.
in Linn County.
Yep, and county, yeah. Unless it's leased or something like that, which you would have to pay taxes on that. But yes, so that's the breakout there. You can see those. Then these constitutional assessment rates get put into place, and so if someone was looking at like $100,000, if you had a $100,000 property, your residential property, yours would be at 11.5%. So you're looking at 11.5 as your assessment rate. So that's actually what is used in the calculation for taxes. So these are, and you can see where commercial is 25%, ag buildings are at 25%. Agricultural land is at 30%. So there's, in our appraised value increases by assessment class. Here's from our 21 to our 22. So a while ago, I told you that, PVD had reported about a 5%. It's at 5.2% for our county. Buildings went up 7.7%. If you look at our new construction, some of those, these do include new construction prices. So, so therefore the new, okay. And then the different amounts as we go down here. So you can see those up 18.7%, 17.6%, but our overall appraised valuation values have had, as I say on the side here, I'm just going to read this. On the assessment classes that are taxable, value changes have had new construction value removed. So the percentages to the right only reflect market appreciation. So I apologize for that, but it is an overall of 16%. I was thinking this was the slide without, but I mean with new construction, but it's without. I'm about there, guys. And then this shows the dollar amount. So in Linn County, we have 868 million, about $800,000 in total appraised valuation. And I get asked a lot, what is the utility value? And we don't do that. That's actually state as well. And so David doesn't get those typically till about June, do you? Yeah, so we don't even, yeah, so we certify that the state assessed properties with the utility is a separate deal. So we won't get those.
And off the utilities now is like 68% of our,
It's in that
in the
neighborhood without
60s.
looking at.
Yeah.
percent of our taxable.
Exactly, but yeah.
Yeah, I gave you a handout that shows that, and that's pretty significant because I think a lot of people may not realize that, but that state assessed public utility pays a huge portion of the load for the county. So then when you break it up and you look back, do you remember where the agricultural, so once this taxable assessed formula is done, then actually the agricultural went from a smaller slice of the pie to a lot bigger slice of the pie, as did commercial. So you can see where that spread is. And then the total taxable valuation with new construction, was 18% total. A lot of people, like I said earlier, think that we're the ones that apply the taxes. This is where it gets put into the hands of the taxing entities. So a mill is the amount charged per thousand of assessed value to calculate ad valorem taxes. So it is determined each year according to the budgets established by the various taxing entities. So I'm talking about like on real estate, if it went up 18%, then the budgets, there's more money there for the budgets. Now, we don't know what public utility is doing, and we don't have the personal property numbers yet, but basically, it's that's where the taxes are figured.
And like
So,
last year, we dropped our mill levy as far as the county.
right,
Yeah,
Close to two.
first
two
time,
mills.
yeah.
The county,
Long
but
time.
then we have the school districts that's drawing 40-some%, just like we draw 40-some% roughly.
If you're out in depending on where, if you're in town,
Right.
then you've got cities that are a big chunk of it too, and that
Right.
varies quite a bit by city within this county.
right,
But what I'm saying, there's different entities, not just us, that we have to talk to.
Right.
There's school districts sitting
Right.
out there that I don't think we had a school district in the county that dropped their mill levy, did we?
Think so. I'm just digging in here now looking for a comparison because I've got one that shows the levies.
Okay.
So basically, in general terms, the mill levy is determined by dividing the dollars needed for local services by the total assessed property value in the service area. So wherever, and then an additional amount is then added for the public schools. So it's one of those where they basically, tell David what that number needs to be. So after the local government budgets are published and hearings are completed, the county clerk computes the mill levies for each local taxing authority, dividing the portion of the taxing authority's budget that is property tax funded by the assessed value in the taxing authority's service area. And we get this a lot where they state, well, I used to live so-and-so and our taxes were different. Well, if you look at our mill levies, they very widely vary depending on where you live in the county. So you could have a home that is exactly the same value in one jurisdiction than another jurisdiction, but they could pay very different
Such as cities,
taxes.
like if you lived in Mountain City and you moved to Lacey, it may be more because of the
Right.
city taxes.
Right.
As well as the school taxes.
Right.
And the school also, right? There'd be different mill levy.
Right,
on the
they're
school.
just different, well, there's different, $100,000 home in in Mound City is lower than $100,000 property in Pleasanton because they're different mill levies.
Right.
And vice versa, if you have that $100,000 home in the rural, then it would be significantly different as well. So a lot of it depends on what those budget needs are from the different taxing entities.
Well, in our defense, I mean, we not only have to control ours, but there's a lot of different entities out there that have
Yeah.
control over what the taxes are.
And for what some people think it did little and probably think it did nothing because the taxes went up this year. When Senator Tyson pushed the bill through to come out with the budget hearing or whatever it was called that we are mandated to do now. And the worst thing we call it is revenue neutral because nobody understands that.
Right.
If they just say, we're going to raise your taxes or lower your taxes today, we'd probably have a whole room full of people because we keep it. But my thing on that is too, Kathy, is you being where you're at, and I think do you serve as the president of the Appraisers?
Yeah.
And that's a great honor, is if there's a different way for the formulas to come out, like when we're having a recession like we did in 2008, everybody wanted the lowest they could because the
Right.
foreclosures worked and you were able to work with it. There's nothing to work with. It doesn't sound like when we're having the market that we're having, an incredible market where there was 3 homes in Parker and they all sold in one day. I mean, that tells you that there's a demand out there and there's only like 4 properties in each town now that's actually for sale. That's how limited it is. And the city's going through it just as bad as we are. Is there a way for them, way for you guys to work on something that would maybe freeze it? Or
well,
have you thought of some better ways to
We-
help us through these times?
Well, I was going to say, several years ago when how do I put this? When the values started ticking up, and because we do get a lot of people, and I empathize with that because my grandparents too were on, Social Security and on budgets and limited budgets, and it was like their monies weren't, covering a lot of their expenses. And so one thing that we did, and I actually spoke to some senators about, was number one, raising those dollars because it's under homestead. Right now they have homestead and they have Safe Senior. So if someone is struggling like that, when you go to do your income taxes, there is a rebate that can be done. And that's very important, I think, especially if you're on limited incomes, to go ahead and look into those. So if they Google or if they even get a hold of the clerk's office can get them information on those programs as well, because
Is it based on a certain age or income and age?
some of it's income. And there is a lot of information. There's now, I know, 4 different bills that things are changing
Sure.
all the time up at legislature, but I do watch them very closely. And there was, I believe, 4 different things on either tied, but it was more on the income tax side of it, and for 65 and older. And so I think any of that freezing is probably, you could get into the trouble of really becoming inequitable over the years to come. So I don't know. I think they're figuring that out, that maybe capping or freezing is not the thing to do, because back in 87 is when 86, 87, 88 was when reappraisal started, and it became a market-based system. And so to go through to do some of the things that have been introduced over the last several years on capping, and they would almost have to have a new reappraisal, because it goes against what they've set up at the legislature. So, but there are, and if there are, we do communicate. We actually have a guy that is very active on our KCAA, our Kansas County Appraiser Association, that goes and says, yeah, yes, he testifies on behalf of our association. So anything that I think benefits, we're always up there talking to them.
Are there any new bills currently in session right now over this?
They're coming in daily on some different things, but not a lot of it on this. There are some things on like personal property proration. There's just a lot of different things, but right now it's more on the income side of like helping more property tax relief on the end, like getting refunds.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it would have to be, I don't know what will come to fruition this year. So, but there's a lot of legislation left. So, this also will show you kind of how a tax bill, if you had $100,000 commercial and $100,000 residential, how different the taxes can be because of the different. It's just an example of a 25% versus an 11.5%. So they pay, a little bit more than double what a residential or commercial does. Statistical compliance, that's what we were talking about previously. We had between 90 and 110% is what we have to maintain. We also have measures that include, they do an annual ratio study. It's called a COD, and that measures uniformity. And so these are, we just got our preliminary, and they had to trend. I asked them to trend our preliminary because we were way low. They ended up applying a trend in some areas up to 40% of our county just because based on some of the sales activity that we've had. And so our preliminary is sitting at about a 90.6. So, and that's with trends added. If trends weren't added, it would be a lot lower. So you can see our commercial is struggling for 2021. These are in the rear. So this would be last year that these values. So what we have to do now is look to see what they've used in our analysis and make sure that they're good sales. But the problem is, like with commercial, you can see the 73.8. There's just a handful of commercial sales. So if one is really low, it can really skew the data. So if you're wondering, this is good material that could probably put you to sleep at night, but this is what the median ratio means. And then the COD is coefficient of dispersion. And that is, if you can see like the little dartboard emblem, that's basically where your 90 to 110% would be. It's just if you threw, it would show you where your sales are within the 20. We're trying to get that narrowed in. So what we did notice throughout this valuation period were a lot of properties. They did during the recession, which we are no longer in a recession at this point, but from 2008 when the recession hit to where throughout the years, the valuations did tend to drop here in Linn County, and they also tended to remain the same for many years. So now we're finding that we're really very low in some areas because, and that's why the valuations had to be increased to even try to come up with market. So, but we do ask, if anybody has any questions, we do have what's called a property record card in our office. We also have an online parcel search. So go out there because the most important thing is we do this all from the exterior. We're not a fee appraiser. we don't see, we rely on the people and when we're out there in the field and through reappraisal where they filled out their information correctly. So look at your bedroom count, look at, what we have about your property. Do we have the right data? Because that's important, is to make sure that that's correct. And then when they do look at their assessment or their evaluation notice they received, is they need to ask the hard question, can I get this for my property? There may be condition issues we don't know about, so it's one of those where we can look at that if there are issues. We actually have had one phone call, which staff was like, oh my gosh, asking, oh my, you have our value too low, we're getting ready to sell it, it's gonna end up, they want it high when it's, but we're getting ready to sell it, and they look at the county's value because we're worried that, it's too low. So we've been watching multi-list since the first of the year. This last week, we just got 2 listings in where we had to raise almost 50%, 40-some% to get even close to what we thought the market was. And now they're asking 50% higher than what we actually have it valued at. So in this market is really different. So anyways, but that's the big thing. Maybe you have for refinancing, you got an appraisal, or for, we're seeing a lot of people get refinances to maybe get renovations done or anything like that. If you have a recent fee appraisal, we have a little sheet at work at our office where if you want to call and get a copy of your property record information, your comp sheet, we can send you that information. And then we have a little sheet on, if I was to appeal, what could I bring for evidence? So we have that information too. So we encourage people that if you do have a question, just come in and sit down with me and have a discussion, and we'll look at your comp sheet and pull any sales in the area. So anyways, I do have a couple. So any questions, let me know, but this isn't part of the presentation, but there are several really good videos. Raleigh County had worked with the company and they did a lot of outreach to their community here several years ago, and they have some really good videos out there on who we are, how property taxes, and then those are the YouTube links. And then KAC, who's the Kansas Association of Counties, just did one on Kansas County collection of property tax. Where does your money go? So that's really good for maybe the community to learn maybe that process. So they do a really good job of showing people, what your property tax dollars are used for. So,
Which entity it's going to.
right, it'll show, it's a really good video. All 3 of those are, and they're all, 5 minutes or less, so.
So Kathy, on your criteria, you come in, you're trying to be within that 10% below or above. Is there a reason why you would go above as an appraiser?
No, I usually shoot for, between 90 and 100 because we go by medians. So
Right.
We don't try to shoot for over 100. And typically if it does go over 100, then it's because we don't know maybe of some condition issues. Let's say that I had your property, we had your property valued at 100,000, but when you went to go sell it, because maybe there was a lot of foundation issues or something, you thought maybe you could get 100,000 for it, but then you listed that property, maybe some things come up and you only sell it for 90,000, then, come in and see us, and, it's one of those where maybe we need to make a condition adjustment or something.
Okay.
So, does anybody else have any questions?
I don't know.
I know this is a lot of information, so.
You got one, Mike? Go.
went up to 4 to 12%. And that happened, since 2007. You expect a 2 or 3% increase, but 12% in 1 year was quite a little bit. And then this year, last year it stayed pretty flat. This year we're back at 15 to 16% increase in the assessment. And after seeing that, which now I know to the time where I did about the assessment process, that's terrific. But now what's next?
Yeah.
Is that 15, 16% increase in assessment? How does that going to translate to taxes? I mean, it seems like unless there's justification for more revenue expenditures by the county, the mill levy ought to go down. Taxes shouldn't go up in relationship with the assessment.
Well,
That's
one
more
thing.
on my side of things on figuring levies. You know,
You'll see that at the end of the budget period. You see, we got, right now, there's a cap on the dollar amount of taxes that we can charge or that we can assess without having a public hearing to discuss it. And so the idea is that if the assessed valuation of the property goes up, your individual taxes should decrease so that the amount of dollars taxed does not increase. Does that make sense?
It does. It didn't happen 2 years ago, at least not with us.
Well, that's only been in place, this is the second year.
the second year on this plan, there was a previous tax bill we worked under that didn't work either.
Yeah.
But it's, at this point, we're way too early in the process
Oh, yeah.
to give anyone an estimate on what their taxes are gonna do this year.
Right.
We've got the real estate values here that Kathy's given us. And, I don't know in the year you're talking about on your property going up that much, if it was yours and the average was clear down here or where the average was. But in a year like this, where the average is going up so much, we still depend a lot on the power plant value that's gonna come in. But if that would stay the same and our average real estate goes up 18%, if our tax dollars stay the same, then your mill levy should come down. And your taxes shouldn't change much, your tax dollars.
But we're not the only ones. It's not just the
You gotta
county's
keep in
tax.
mind, half of it's coming from your school districts too, and like I said, every one of them went over on their,
Yeah.
And the cities, and for
the city.
if you
But
live in a city.
until we get all of the values in June and know those public utility values, we don't even know what our total value for the county is going to do. And then we're looking at August by the time the budgets come in and October by the time I actually set levies. But, in August, we'll have a real good idea of what the levies are going to do.
Right.
But you're still going to see individuals within the county that if we're averaging an 18% increase, there's probably some people that hit 30.
Yeah.
There's probably some people that only hit 5. And, where you fall in, that's going to make a big difference on your taxes for the year too. But we are way too early in the process to even estimate it for anyone right now.
Right.
I have a question. Michael, this is probably for David. David, are you restricted in any way in the amount of mill levy you can increase or decrease in a given budget?
There are limits under the tax bill that went into effect last year that sets a revenue neutral rate. Now, it is not a definite restriction because you can still hold a hearing and go over it. But there are some limits there to look at. And I mean, in our case, we lowered the county levy last year. And Jim was saying schools, most of them went up. One of them stayed pretty close to even. But there's no definite limit that there's no way to get around. I mean, there are ways you can hold hearings to go over if you need to.
But that then makes it a political
Right.
thing. And that way, people could put political pressure on their boards not to raise it.
Yeah, so the additional handout that I had given, I had sent this information to Jim earlier, so I wanted to make sure that the commissioners got copies of that as well. This was just basically just showing you what our values our appraised valuation and our assessed valuation, the differences between 21 and 2022 at this point. And these can change. We do have the appeals process coming up. And so, we'll, like this gentleman had said, he'd come in for an appeal, and we look at anybody that does come an appeal, we look at each property individually. We take a deeper dive into, because we are a mass appraisal. So we look at making sure our information is correct. We look at, do we have the condition and the different quality factors, in check? Do we have sales to support it? Different things such as that. So it's more of an individual look at a person's situation, their property situation. But anyways, you'll see to the right that it shows you, and down below, how much new construction and remodeling that we picked up this year, which was pretty significant. And so, and then on the back, this is what you were talking about earlier, Commissioner Johnson, was this is, can be obtained from the property valuation abstract department. It's online, and you can go out to Linn County, and it'll show you the 2021, last year's real and personal property value and tax summary. So it shows you the different assessment rates, what they were responsible for. And just as Commissioner Johnson had said, the public utility pays almost 68% of the taxes for, you can see this big spike here for the property value by type class, and this just percent of property value by class. But then on the back of this, it shows you kind of where the money goes and how those are distributed. So you can see the different entities. So we've got state, county, city, townships, USD, cemetery, extension, fire, hospital, library. So there's just a lot of different taxing entities that play a role. So anyways, that was for your information. We did send, and I appreciate the newspaper putting this in, thank you, for our 2022 real estate appraised valuations. If people do have a question about their value, like I said, we can send them information, or if they want to set up an appeal, we're doing them in person, on the telephone, or maybe, some people don't want to come in. They just say, have an appraisal, or can I send you pictures or whatnot? They can just send evidence through our email, and I can take a look at that and see if it does validate a difference there. So anyways, I think I've taken up enough of you guys' time, but anyways.
Kathy, thank you for coming in, and I appreciate that.
Can you send this on to the commissioners, or send it to David to get it to us
Yeah.
on PDF or something?
Yeah, I have it on PDF. I'll just go ahead and email it to you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Kathy.
I think it opened my eyes to, as far as the schools and towns and how much money other entities in the county have control over the tax money. It's just, we're 40-some% of it, but a lot of it comes from other places.
Yeah, and we still got to work hard too.
We do too.
Doing a good
We do
job.
too.
If you've been to any of the meetings with the Republican committee, when I've talked about things with elections, that's one of the things you've heard me say many times is these odd numbered year elections, when we elect school boards and city councils, that's where the biggest part of your tax dollars are going, yet nobody comes out and votes in those elections.
Yeah.
Everybody blames the county when the taxes change, and it's really not where it happens a lot of the time.
There's a huge amount of money spent by a small amount of people overseeing it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys
Thanks a lot,
have a-
Kathy.
welcome.
Commissioners, I got something I want to do while Chris is still here. Can I don't know what else you got going, but if
We'll take time for you.
well, thank you. I'm honored. I appreciate that. No, this is about the generator situation. We need to talk about that a little bit. As you know, the generator that is now serving the jail will come over here and be a part of this new system. And it's going to have to happen in the next 3 weeks or so. That change is going to occur. The decision has been basically made, although I think I need for you guys to ratify that decision, that there's a generator that's large enough to handle the jail temporarily. Well, it could handle it permanently, but the old jail, now located at the emergency management place. What we need to do is bring that generator over here, temporarily place it to serve the current jail and the current dispatch. Then, in the interim, there's a portable generator that can be used to service the emergency management. Correct me if I say anything wrong. The next step then is that when the dispatch has been moved to the new facility, the generator that we have temporarily placed over here would be permanently placed to serve the remaining buildings here and any future buildings that should happen to be constructed there. The final piece of the puzzle is we'd be purchasing a smaller generator to serve emergency management to be permanently installed there. And so there are about 4 different pieces to the puzzle here, and we need a general sort of consensus. That's the way we're going, so that we can start the process, because some of this has to be done in the next couple of weeks. So here's what I need you to do. First of all, do you have any questions about any of that?
No,
We've talked about all of it.
Why would we do it? Why would we set it over here temporary and then set it permanent? Why don't we just set it permanent?
Simply because we've got to get the temporary up in about the next 2 weeks, and I don't think we could be ready to do the permanent setting that quickly. Isn't that correct, Chris?
That's correct.
And so,
Is that because we got to pour a pad? And
Pour pad, yes. Yeah, we've got to work with Atmos and get the gas line over to the permanent location, but I don't think there's enough time to get the contractor to do that and get the generator.
is there any other type of lines or some different things that's got to happen for
So
the?
and Gary has kind of a proposed bid. So
Okay.
I think that's part of it. If they think they can do it, sure.
So do we spend a little extra money and get them here in like emergency time, or do we spend 2 mobilization fees?
that's what we're proposing to do, is to go out on a bid, and if somebody says, hey, I can do the permanent thing in the next 3 weeks, we go with it. But if they say, no, there's no way, it's got to be done in 2 separate phases, then
I'm like Danny, I'd like to see if we could to do it permanent one time.
yeah,
If we can.
and that's the preference. But the worst case scenario is we might have to break it up into 2 if we can't get it done in time. Because right now we're under the gun to get this move made. So what I would like for you to do, if you're open to it, is to, number 1, agree to move the generator from the emergency management to a location over here, either temporary or permanent, depending on how quickly we can get it done. That's the first decision. Yes, we're going to move that generator. Second decision is, yes, we're going to use a mobile generator at the emergency management location until we get a new permanent generator there. The third decision is to go out for prices on a new permanent generator for the emergency management building. And then the fourth decision would be to authorize the permanent installation of the former emergency management generator at a location here, either temporarily or permanently, depending on how quickly we make it happen. So those are basically the 4.
We can put that all in one motion, right?
Yeah, right. I just want to break it down so you can see what the
Are
element.
you good?
Does the mobile one, I mean, does it start itself up when the power goes?
No, it doesn't. It'll have to, that's the
The one
downside
on the
of it.
trailer,
Right.
big one. Yeah. we bought.
It'll have to be manually started and connected,
Correct.
but it's sufficient for a temporary thing. But there's no reason we can't get out and find this 25 kH.
How long do you think it'll take to lead time on a generator?
I bet you're looking in July.
What about you? We expect Doug to walk out and if his power goes off, go out in the middle of the storm and turn it on. We already have that unhardened space.
Somebody will have to do that. I mean, that's the only solution. I mean, unless you want to, I don't even know what another solution would be, because this whole move was based upon getting this generator over here.
Right.
And that's got to happen now. And we've got to have something to power. I guess you could go out and buy another big generator to put over here, but again, I don't think you can get it in 3 weeks.
That one's underused over there.
It's way underused.
Way
in that.
underused, so we're not.
So it's a good use of that generator to get it over here and get a smaller one for over there. And who knows, maybe we'll find one quickly. I don't know. It's possible that somebody's got one sitting out there, but we don't want to count on that. Any other questions about this?
Just we gotta do what we gotta do.
Yeah.
Well, your motion would be then to approve moving the emergency management generator to the current jail site, either temporarily or permanently installing it, to use a mobile generator at emergency management until a replacement is found, and to go out and seek that replacement.
That's my motion.
I'll second it.
That covered all.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And then finally, he's got the kind of a bid proposal put together to do all that. And I think a motion to just authorize Chris to go out for bids for a contractor to do that work.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you for letting me jump in with that, but he needed to go.
Can you get copies of all what you just said there that I could get?
Yes, Johnny, you want to come up?
I'm using the restroom for it.
This is the original, I think.
This is what we'll be putting in the paper. These are just, these are our certification. You guys all.
Did the paper guy a copy of this already?
Yeah, I sent it over to them. And it's standard. I see one's hanging out here. What was that?
Are you qualified for the pest spray yet? Or, I mean, as far as you're ready to go on all that?
Yes, sir. I'll give you a rundown.
All right.
So Johnny Taylor, Noxious Weed Director. And what I wanted to do was, this morning was just update you on what Carl Weiberg and I have accomplished since I last spoke to you. December, January, and February, we accomplished the general core test, the rights of way test, and the noxious weed test. All those were required for us to be issued our commercial pesticide applicator certifications. We did pass all those and was issued that certification on February the 8th. And that allows us to be able to spray in the county. On the first week of March, we attended the 84th Annual Kansas Weed Conference in Topeka. And at that conference, we gained 12 credit hours toward our future renewal of that pesticide applicator license that we'll have to keep going. It renews every 2 years, I believe. And you don't have to retest if you attend these conferences and get these credits. And then the next week, second week of March, we attended the, it's kind of a long-winded word here. It's the Kansas Department of Agriculture Basic Training School for Kansas Noxious Weed Directors. And after 4 days of PowerPoints and lectures, we had a 100-question test on Friday that I'm happy to tell you that we both passed.
Good.
And so that we got a certification of that. That's one of those, the copies that I gave you. And the last thing that I wanted to, well, actually, last Thursday, we had our monthly for the Southeast District of Noxious Weed Directors Association meeting. And happy to let you know that we finalized some plans to have a training day at our facility here in Linn County. And the Noxious Weed Director from Miami County and Anderson County, who both have a lot of experience and been working with this all along this, knowing that we're new to this and kind of giving us pointers. They're going to come over and instruct us. Actually, also, I was going to mention that Bourbon County, Crawford County, and Cherokee County Noxious Weed Directors are going to attend this for the same training that we're getting. They're all kind of in the same boat as me and Carl. They're new to their position, and what they're going to train us in is proper procedures for chemical mixing, and also the calibration of our machines, the sprayers, and then we're actually going to do some mock spraying that day. We're going to take maybe each department's trucks out even individually, and we'll put water in them and do some mock spraying around the landfill or some of the roads surrounding that area. So we're really looking forward to that. I know the other guys that I see at these meetings, they're kind of like me. They're new to this, and these guys, the neighboring counties that have stepped in and to help us out with instruction and everything has just been great, and they've been very helpful. So I wanted to make mention of that. And lastly is that 22 weed management plan. And I know I saw you asked a question about the figures on here. Just so you know, the purpose of this weed management plan, and this is one of the things I just learned at school, by the way. The state weed specialist, his name is Scott Marsh, and he gave a whole seminar one day on this weed management plan. And the purpose of it, like those numbers aren't any kind of hard numbers that we're held to or anything. This is just, the purpose of this is twofold. What we've done in the previous years, some of those questions are on here, kind of lets him know what we've done to help residents control and eradicate noxious weeds in our county. And then going forward, some of the questions are, what are we going to do in the future? Even one of them is in the next 5 years. And same thing, the numbers like on that box that you asked about, the estimated projected personnel operations and equipment cost of the proposed program. He touched on that, and he wanted to make note. He said, I know your commissioners are going to sign these and you bring them back to me, and they're honest, every time you see numbers, people are going to have questions. He said, this is just an estimate. This isn't our budget or anything we're held to. It's information he gathers from this report, and he puts in his report for the state to kind of know. There's, I believe, 105 counties or something like that in Kansas. So he said that he compiles all this information. It just helps him keep an idea of what each county. And part of this, just I wanted to point out that obviously, you know, when I first started, it was mentioned to me that it's been, 4 or 5 years since we've had full-time noxious weed going, the whole program going full tilt. And one of the things to be in good standing and approval with the state is this plan that we will do every year. Also, there's an annual report that we do. I don't have one to do right now because we didn't do anything last year, and I certainly wasn't part of it. I talked to Scott about that. He understands. And these other certifications that we've done are part of that approval. So our goal is, immediate goal, obviously, after this training is to start, April showers bring May flowers. So we're hoping to get rolling really quick on our county property, roadways, rights of ways, and so on with our spraying. And obviously, I'm sure I'm going to be hit up by residents here real soon about cost shares and get that kind of stuff going. And then next year, I'm hoping to have everything completed so that we can be in good standing with the state as far as all the things that they require for the Kansas Department of Agriculture. So that's pretty much all I have for you today, other than if you got any questions for me.
I do.
Yes, sir.
Many people don't even know that there is a cost share program.
Mm-hmm.
They're the farmers that's done it for years,
Right.
landowners that's done it for years. They know exactly how to hunt you down and get their cost shares done. But there are a lot of people that don't even know this program exists. And it could be beneficial to the county as well if they just knew that it existed and it would help them out. So how are you going to get that word out to them?
It starts with that general notice that you see there. That usually they want that in by April 1st. The paper did contact me because they were used to doing that every year. That's the updated one that I had been sent by Scott Marsh. And that has a twofold. Same thing what you just said. Number one, when people see that in the local paper, they, oh man, noxious weed laws. There's things we got to abide by. I got some questions. Maybe I'll contact the local noxious weed director and get those answered. Also, I did get approached by one of the businesses in town. Clinch Realty is having a kind of a farm show type thing. It's going to start out at their business, and then they're going to go tour some farms. And I talked to Brandon McGinnis about setting up. I'm going to take opportunities like that. And, we got the county fair. Actually, at our noxious weed director meeting, we talked about different counties volunteering at the farm show in Pittsburgh. And so those are some of the ways that we've talked about already of setting up like a little table, like I said, immediately. I think that's in April sometime. I forgot the exact dates. But
So can we get it on our not Facebook, but on our website as well?
Yes, that would be a good idea too.
Yeah.
I'll talk to him about that. Yeah.
Talk to
Because
Chris.
I was the same way. I honestly, I don't own the farm in the county. I've lived here 10 years and live in town in Pleasanton, and I wasn't aware of the cost share program myself. So I know exactly what you mean about, and, explaining the purpose of it too is that was one of the things we talked about at our meeting, that we have the responsibility of to make sure that it's being used properly, because the cost share program isn't for someone to buy the chemicals to get rid of their dandelions in their yard or something. It's for the noxious weed program to eradicate and control those for, if farmers have grazing land for their cattle. I mean, noxious weeds in a cropland can knock their yields down 30 to 50%. I mean, it's huge. I mean, so for a farmer trying to make a living, I mean, it's a huge deal to control those. So it's a big thing. And the cost share program is what is an incentive for people to help control those, because even if we're spraying the county right of ways and we finally get on top of that and we're controlling those things in our roadways, but next to it's a field that's not doing anything, that's the whole purpose, is we can go to them, tell them we've seen that, we're going to help you control those so they're not spreading to other fields or in our rights of way. And that's kind of the process of that cost share program.
What rights do we have with absentee landowners that just do nothing? There's some that.
There are ways to force them to.
Absolutely, yes. We had another whole seminar on that, the enforcement. It was like an hour and a half by one of the officials for the state, the Kansas Department of Agriculture. And, it's one of those situations where if you go about it the right way, it's beneficial to the landowner. It's not just, like knocking on their door to cause problems or, get people right. It's all how you approach them. So you want to, like he said, you want to educate people first. And that cost share program is to help. It's an incentive. That's the whole word, cost share. The county's sharing the cost of that chemical to help control on their property.
Land in Linn County that they're just absentee landowners and come in and hunting season or
Yes.
whatever they want. And
Right.
Yeah. And so, honestly, if it gets reported or comes to our attention, or that's part of my responsibilities, and maybe in between spraying, if we see those things, like you said, with absentee landowners, maybe they live somewhere else, but they buy farmland here to hunt on or whatever, we are supposed to seek out those, either who caretakes that property or who owns that property, and then make them known, hey, you have this particular noxious weed or that one, and this is how we can help you eradicate it or control it at the very least. And there's lots of controls besides chemicals. I mean, that's one of the things that I've been studying about all these months. I mean, there's grazing. Some farmers are putting sheep and goats on their grazing property even when they're raising cattle, because they will eat certain noxious weeds that the cattle won't eat, and it controls them. If they eat those down before they go to seed, then they don't spread. So it may not totally eradicate them, but it controls it.
So we no longer, farmers or people that's going to cost share, we've done this in the past, they no longer have to go to you to pick up the chemicals because you went and got the chemicals. They can go to certain places to pick that up. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that going to, I want that published on our webpage.
then they bring you the bill, and that's where they get
Right.
the voucher to pay for.
Yeah.
Yes, and to be perfectly honest with you, I haven't got to partake in the procedure yet myself, so I'm still kind of in the learning part of it. But what I've been trained and with working with talking to Sean and working with Tammy, so the way the proper procedure is again, because I told you, the chemical cost share program isn't for people just to buy the chemicals at a cheap price and use any way they want. It's supposed to be used specifically for what they come and tell us they have, or what I've witnessed that they have.
Now, do you audit that? I mean, as far as the people come, do you audit a certain percentage of that? Or
That is a responsibility of the noxious weed director by the state law. Is yes, absolutely. Generally, say for instance, you as a farm owner called and told me you have some property that you have some Lespedeza and you think that you want to get it eradicated. It's killing your grazing land or your hay property. And so I'll come out with you and meet with you, and we'll first of all witness that you do have that problem. So we can go from there, and we figure out how many acres are you wanting to treat. We figure out how much product it's going to take to treat those acres. And then all that information is going to go into that cost share paperwork. And you're going to be given a voucher that you take to, I think, I haven't even got to do it myself, like I said, go through the procedure, but I think Mound City Ag has some, Beechner in Lacine, I believe, is one of the places they can take these vouchers. And then they get to buy at that cost on that voucher, and then they will bill the county for that other share. Usually, I think maybe around 25% or something.
so this happens before they go by now.
Right.
That's what it
Yes.
should be.
Yes. Yes, and honestly, I honestly am anticipating, eagerly anticipating the first that starting to come in so I can go through the process and know it myself. And so I'll be more able to educate others once I go through the process from beginning to end and helping them learn that.
Okay. Have you read this over? You're good with it? So we made a motion on this?
Motion to, approve and submit the,
You guys have any questions? Hmm? Motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the 2022 management plan for noxious weeds.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All three of us signed the back.
Johnny, sounds like you have a heck of a plan. I'm excited for you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, you're almost the longest living one we've had.
I've heard that. And honestly, one last thing while you guys are signing that I did want to mention, because especially with our travels lately with to all these conferences and training, Carl and I both wanted to impart to you guys. We had both done so with Sean and with Morgan, but wanted to tell you guys too that it's been a big help that all of you involved have been patient to give us the time to do this training, because it was a lot. I'll be honest, it was pretty intimidating for teaching an old dog a new trick to go through all this reading and studying and certifying all these individual tests and training. And so we feel like we couldn't have done it without the patience and the encouragement we had from you guys. Otherwise, it would have been pretty hard to do. So, I don't know what happened before me, but I can speak from my time on. I've got nothing but patience and encouragement from everyone involved, and we just wanted to make mention of that.
Thank you.
Now that you've done all this, what, we want 20 years? Is that what we want?
Yeah. I think there was a communication gap earlier before you leave, that you asked him a question, and I think he misunderstood your question, and then he reinforced it by something he said. You asked if he was now licensed to do the spraying in our buildings.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did misunderstand you.
And he reinforced the misunderstanding by using the word pesticides. These are not pesticides, these are herbicides.
Exactly.
And so you also want him to get licensed to do our pesticides.
Yes, and actually,
Pesticides for all the buildings.
right. Sean and I had spoken to that, and kind of this been a one step at a time.
Sure.
And to be honest, so on my whiteboard in my office, dated 10/4/21, was 1 day at a time. And so that's kind of the way Carl and I have approached this. Is I want to get this spraying under control and going and trained and everything, and then I definitely with. In the future, we're looking to, that'll be that one more time, because there's another testing I have to do to be qualified to do the pesticide spraying in the buildings and stuff. But down the line, I think that, like I said, Sean and I have talked about it, but I think it'll work. Like, I don't know if it's a year-round thing. We'll just have to see. I don't know if it's a year-round thing I'll be able to take care of, but maybe even alleviate, like, maybe we contract part of the year, like while I'm busy spraying the rights of way, then I might not be available to spray the buildings. But then there's an off time that, you're not spraying. Like all this time that I've been doing since October studying would be time that we could be, spraying the county buildings and so on for the pests and stuff. So that's something we've definitely talked about.
All right, we'll think of something else as soon as you get that done.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Johnny. You got anything else, Sean?
He's got.
Just, anybody else have any?
I do have another item to go through with you, but we can do it after executive. I want to talk about districting, commission district, or looking at those numbers. It's just something.
Well, we've got, go ahead.
I-
You want to do it later, or you want to do
I
it?
can do it after the executive,
Okay.
it'll be fine. Morgan, was it just what Sean had in executive that you need, or do you need some more time? You had some more, yeah.
How much do you need?
Probably just 10, 15 minutes.
For what? Personnel?
15 for personnel?
So I think Sean wanted 10 personnel and 10 legal, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. 10 legal and 10 non-elected personnel, and then Morgan wants 15 minutes for personnel. So that's a total of 35 minutes. That's my motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Please go back and have
Okay. We had some action from executive sessions.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Morgan Northcutt Human Resources. I moved to change Carl Weiberg's,
No, you recommend.
oh, whatever, move, sorry, can't speak. I recommend that Carl Weiberg move from 1375 to 1871.15 at the pay scale of 11A. And Johnny Taylor moved from 1871.15, 11A to 2020-84, which is a 12A.
And this is based on all their certification requirements. 3 different ones or 2 or 3 different ones that they had to obtain in order to be at the bottom of that scale. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're good with it?
Also a position change for Carl from an operator into what would effectively be an assistant lead. So.
Okay, I'll make a motion that,
Effective
3/7.
7th, which would hit this pay period because they passed their classes, so they got the certifications about that time.
That's correct.
okay. I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve the pay raises for those 2 individuals as stated.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the other thing I had was to talk about the results of the census on the population in our county and the commission districts. I've got some information to go over on that. So statute that discusses this on rearrangement of districts or change in numbers is 19204. And it's basically what it comes down to is you divide the commission or the county into districts as compact and equal in population as possible, is the way it reads, which kind of leaves it open to some interpretation of what is compact and equal. And you should, or it's subject to alteration every 3 years. Now, since we just got through a census and got new numbers, this is definitely a time we need to look at it. So I went through and compared on one side of this page what our current commission districts are, the population in each one, what the average would be if it was even exactly between them. So right now, District 1 here is at about 34.6% of the population of the county. District 2 is 32.39, District 3 is 32.98. So you are within about 2% between the districts. So I went through looking at voting precincts. And this is printed in black and white, so it's a little hard to see. There's a little different shade of gray between 1 and 2, and then 3 is quite a bit lighter. So I was trying to find if there were possible ways to make it closer to the same population that would even be worth taking a look at. I didn't really find much. About the only thing I could find that got it a little bit closer would be taking, and this is on the other side of the sheet of paper I gave you, would be switching South Lincoln and Paris precincts between districts 1 and 2. That does get it slightly closer, but you're still looking at about 1.5% difference overall. It's a difference of 45 people in population. To me, it's not worth the change to do that for a difference of 45 people. It also would create for us another issue right now is our current District 1 commissioner lives in South Lincoln.
Just set it.
If we were to change that, he would not be even eligible to run for commissioner for that position again. However, that's not the primary thing you need to look at, but it is an issue that would come up. But we would have to go through a voter system and change everyone in those districts to a new district. Like I said, for the amount of change it's gonna make, 45 people, I don't see why it would be worth it at this time. Now, I can see down the road, if the Linn Valley area continues to grow like it has the last few years, it may be something we need to do in another 3 or 4 years.
Gotcha.
How far does it have to get out of range before you're required to do anything? Is there?
There's nothing really
Nothing.
specific on it.
It says as compact and equal as possible. So it's, I'm sure there are some court cases out there that may address it, but I don't think there's anything that would say that this is out of whack for, in keeping with the idea of what is possible.
But that is really the decision of the three of you to make. I'm just looking at it from my point of view. My opinion, I don't think it's worth making a change for basically correcting 0.5% is all it would amount to.
How do you feel, Danny?
I'm with David on it.
How about you?
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to change it right now.
The only other thing you could even look at, and I'm not sure how we would even get the numbers on that without looking at individual properties, is it is possible to not follow precinct lines for districts. That creates all kinds of nightmares. But if you were going to do that, you could get it down to where you were exactly equal in population in each district.
Until someone moved across the street.
Right. But that's going to change, almost daily at the rate.
Well, I do think Linn Valley is going to continue to grow.
I do too.
That area is going to continue to grow.
And I really think maybe the next time we look at this
Yeah.
in 3 or 4 years, we might need to make a change like that to even it up.
Right.
But like I said, you'd only be going from about 2 to about a 1.5% difference.
Right.
If you change that now, and just for the hassle of changing everything, I don't see why that would be worth it. But again, it's up to the three of you to make that decision.
I don't see a problem leaving it where we're at.
Do you need a motion or what?
I think we should get something in the minutes because you are required to review this. And I think we should have something. So, I don't know, Gary, would just be a motion or state that they've reviewed the population figures for the commission districts and vote to leave the districts the same, or?
You reviewed it, you believe that they're in compliance with the requirement of the statute, you vote to leave the same.
That's my motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, well, I think that's all I needed on it. Like I said, I wanted to get something in the minutes that you had at least reviewed it. And well, who knows if any of us are still in these offices 3 or 4 years from now, but whoever's in office at that time, I think by then, if we continue to see that growth in the Linn Valley area, it may be some similar change like that might need to be made at that point.
Any word on, have you seen anything on state maps of districting?
Oh, they've been.
I know this.
Oh, yeah, there's counties out west that they're getting ready. They're raising some.
Isn't the Supreme Court reviewing it right now?
No, not for that.
That's, I think,
State.
yeah, I haven't actually seen the maps. I
haven't either. I've heard, yeah.
Everything I'm hearing, there are probably some districts out in the west part of the state that are going to get bigger geographically, and some in our side that are going to shrink just because of the population moving more to the cities. There's like 5 or 6 different plans out there on which way to go with it. One of them is even like renumbering all the congressional districts in the state so that they go in order as you come across. but instead of starting in southeast Kansas like it does now, to start in southwest Kansas, so nobody would have the same number again, which again is an election nightmare. But nothing's actually approved on it, on any of the plans yet. And whichever one does get approved will probably immediately go to court too.
Sure.
Because somebody will fight it. We really expect to get down to filing deadline the 1st of June and just find out within a day or two of that of what district people are going to be in.
They did that not too long ago on the last a few elections ago on our level at the state representatives, or not state representatives, but the or United States House. Yeah.
That probably after the last census.
Yeah.
We met with the Secretary of State's office at our clerk's school a couple of weeks ago, and then we had him down at the meeting we had in Anderson County last week again, and the Secretary of State's office is required to send me a notice of the offices that are up for election for this year by, I believe it's April 1st. And then I have to publish a notice after I receive it from them. He said they are probably going to send out kind of a generic notice when it comes to state congressional districts of something along the lines of state Congress number to be determined, because they don't even know yet. So we know that those positions will be on the ballot, but we don't know which number they're going to be or whatever area they're going to cover yet.
Is that everything? You done? I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
All right.